The twin suns of Velan Prime shone over a world of crystal towers and glowing rivers. The capital city, Vareth, stood like a jewel among the clouds. Its tall spires shimmered with living light, built by the ancient Valari, a race known for their grace and long lives. The Valari were wise and powerful, but their empire had begun to depend on the alliance with humans. Humans were strong, adaptable, and unafraid of danger. Still, the Valari did not trust them easily. Among the few humans chosen to serve inside the royal palace was a soldier named Rian. He had come from a small human colony, far from Velan Prime. His training record showed courage and discipline, but what made him special was his calm nature. While other soldiers tried to impress, Rian simply did his duty. He spoke little, observed everything, and followed orders without hesitation. The queen herself had noticed his record and selected him to join the personal guard of her only daughter, Princess Alira. Princess Alira was young by Valari standards, curious and gentle. Unlike her mother, who ruled with a strict heart, Alira often wandered through the gardens, studying plants and creatures from other worlds. Her tutors warned her to stay inside the protected dome, but she loved the feeling of the wind and the sound of the rivers. Ryan's duty was to protect her, no matter the risk. Every morning, Ryan stood outside the palace gates in silver armor. His eyes scanned the sky as transport ships passed overhead. The other guards, mostly Valari soldiers, kept their distance from him. They respected his skill but never treated him as an equal. They often whispered among themselves, saying humans were too emotional to serve in the royal guard. Ryan ignored their words. His loyalty was not to their pride but to his mission. When the princess came walking through the gate, Ryan bowed slightly. She smiled kindly, the sunlight reflecting in her bright silver eyes. "Good morning, Rian," she said softly. "I am going to the outer gardens again." Ryan nodded. "I will follow, princess." The path to the gardens wound between crystal trees and glowing flowers. The air carried a faint hum from the energy field that powered the palace grounds. Alira loved to touch the petals that shimmered like glass. Ryan kept a few steps behind, watching every shadow. His hand rested near his plasma blade, and his visor scanned for hidden movement. The princess often tried to talk to him, though he rarely spoke more than needed. She found it strange but also comforting. He was unlike the Valari guards who spoke in proud, formal tones. Ryan was simple and sincere. One day, while collecting samples from the garden, she asked, "Do humans ever get tired of protecting others?" Rian looked at her for a moment. "No, princess. It is what gives us purpose," she smiled faintly. "You speak as if protection is a choice, not an order." "It is both," he replied. "An order gives the reason, but the choice gives meaning." Her expression softened. She never expected such depth from a quiet human guard. That day she began to look at him differently, not just as a protector, but as someone who understood the value of life and duty. But peace never lasted long in the galaxy. Trouble had been growing at the edges of the Valari Empire. Raiders from the outer moons, led by exiled lords, were attacking trade routes and settlements. The queen believed the capital was safe under her shielded domes, yet danger was always near. That night, while the sun set behind the horizon, alarms echoed through the palace. The skies turned red as explosions flared above the outer defense line. The raiders had breached orbit. Their small ships descended fast, firing plasma rounds into the royal district. The guards rushed to battle positions. The queen ordered her daughter to be moved to safety inside the lower vaults. Rian was already at the princess's side. "We must go, princess," he said firmly. Alira's eyes widened as the walls shook around them. "What is happening?" she asked in fear. "The city is under attack. Stay behind me." He guided her through the glowing corridors as debris fell from above. Other guards joined, firing at incoming drones. The noise was deafening and the air smelled of burning metal. Outside, the night sky was filled with smoke and flashes of blue light. When they reached the outer gardens, the shield barrier had already failed. The raiders landed near the fountains, armed with rifles that hummed with energy. They spotted the princess instantly and opened fire. Ryan pushed her down, activating his combat shield. The first wave of shots struck the shield, sending sparks across the ground. "Run to the lower gate," Ryan ordered. She hesitated. "What about you?" "I will cover you." He rose and charged toward the attackers. His armor shimmered as he deflected shots and countered with precise bursts from his rifle. The raiders were faster, but Ryan fought with a fierce will. Each move was deliberate, his mind focused only on keeping the princess alive. 2 raiders fell, then 3, but more came through the smoke. One of the Valari guards was hit and fell. Another shouted for retreat. Ryan knew they could not hold much longer. The garden's defense grid had been destroyed. He turned back and saw Alira still standing near the trees, frozen by fear. "Go," he shouted. She took a step, then another, before a blast struck nearby. The shockwave threw her to the ground. Ryan sprinted across the garden and reached her as more shots rained down. Without a second thought, he covered her with his body, his shield flickering from the heavy fire. The ground shook again as a plasma grenade exploded close to them. The force of the blast shattered his armor. Pain spread through his chest, but he held firm, keeping the princess safe beneath him. His vision blurred as alarms rang inside his helmet. He could not move, but he heard her voice calling his name. "Ryan, please stay with me," she cried, trying to pull him up. He smiled faintly, though his voice was weak. "You are safe now. That is all that matters." The other guards arrived at last, driving back the raiders with heavy fire. They lifted the princess to safety, but when they looked down at Ryan, they saw he was not moving. His armor was cracked, his pulse gone. The medical drone scanned him, then fell silent. By the time the queen reached the garden, the flames were still burning. Her daughter stood near the fallen human, tears in her eyes. The queen had never met Ryan personally, but she had read his reports and heard of his loyalty. Now seeing his lifeless body, she felt something she had not felt in years: sorrow. She knelt beside him, touching his damaged armor. "He gave his life for you?" she asked her daughter. Alira nodded, unable to speak. The queen's face hardened for a moment, then softened again. "He will not be forgotten." She ordered her guards to carry his body to the royal vault. Normally, human soldiers were honored through simple ceremonies, but this time she broke tradition. "Preserve him," she commanded. "Do not burn his body. Keep him in cryonic stasis." The chief scientist hesitated. "My queen, that is against both law and custom." Her eyes turned cold. "He saved the future of our people. The law can wait." The guards obeyed, placing Ryan's body into a crystal pod beneath the palace. The chamber glowed with soft light as the freezing process began. The queen stood in silence, watching the mist rise around him. That night she could not sleep. She walked alone through the empty halls, thinking about the human who had given everything for her daughter. Humans were short-lived, impulsive, and fragile compared to the Valari. Yet this one had done what even her best soldiers could not. He had faced death without fear. When morning came, the queen visited the cryonic chamber again. Her daughter was already there, sitting beside the pod. The room was quiet except for the hum of the machines. The queen looked through the glass and saw his still face. "He was brave," she said softly. Alira wiped her tears. "He was kind too. He never saw me as a title, only as a person." The queen nodded slowly. "Then we owe him more than honor. We owe him life." The scientist who had followed her froze at those words. "My queen, resurrection is not possible. The human body cannot handle our energy systems." But the queen turned to him with a steady gaze. "Then find a way." She left the chamber, her voice echoing down the hall. "He gave his life protecting the princess. I will not let him go." And so began the secret plan that would change the fate of 2 races, the plan to bring a human back from death. The morning after the attack, Valen Prime was silent. The smoke had cleared, but the pain remained. Many soldiers had fallen, and the once perfect gardens now lay in ruins. The Queen, Seren, stood on the balcony of her palace, watching the workers rebuild the broken walls. Her daughter, Princess Alira, stood beside her, still wearing the same silver robe from the night of the attack. Neither spoke for a long time. The Queen had ruled for more than 200 years. She was known across the stars for her strength and intelligence, but now her heart felt heavy. In her long life she had seen countless battles and endless loss, yet no single death had troubled her as much as the death of the human guard named Ryan. She could not understand why the image of his still face would not leave her mind. Below the palace, inside a hidden laboratory, Ryan's body rested in a cryonic pod of blue light. The machines kept his cells from decay. Every hour the Queen sent her scientists to check on him, though they told her there was no hope. Still, she could not stop thinking. This man had stood against an entire wave of raiders and died shielding her daughter. He had no reason to love the Valari, yet he had acted with complete loyalty. That kind of courage was rare even among her own kind. She had seen Valari generals retreat from battle to save themselves, but Rian, a simple human soldier, had faced death without hesitation. At dawn, the queen called her council together. The chamber was filled with tall, glowing seats and the hum of energy crystals. The members of the royal council were the wisest of the Valari race. When the queen entered, they all rose. "Sit," she ordered, her voice calm but firm. "We must speak of the human guard." One of the councillors, Lord Theron, frowned. "My queen, with respect, there are more pressing matters. The raiders must be punished and our defenses repaired." The queen raised a hand. "They will be. But first I will speak of him. The human who saved my daughter deserves our attention." Another councillor, a tall woman named Velra, crossed her arms. "He was brave, yes, but he was human. We cannot let emotion cloud our rule." The queen's silver eyes narrowed. "Emotion does not weaken rule. It reminds us of what we protect." The room fell silent. The queen stood from her throne and walked slowly toward the center. "I have made my decision. The human will not be buried or forgotten. He will be restored." Gasps filled the room. Lord Theron rose in shock. "Restored? My queen, that is impossible. We have tried resurrection on our own kind and it failed. The process burns the mind and destroys the spirit." "I am aware of the risks," she said, "but I will not abandon this. He gave his life for the crown. I will give him another chance at life." The council tried to argue, but one look at her face told them it was useless. The queen's word was final. She dismissed them all and ordered her chief scientist, Dr. Oren, to meet her in the lower chambers. Dr. Oren was an old Valari with sharp eyes and a steady hand. He had worked with energy systems for decades, studying how light could heal or destroy living matter. When the queen told him her wish, he hesitated. "My queen," he said carefully, "the process you speak of is beyond tested limits. The Valari body can sometimes absorb the energy cells we use, but human tissue will collapse." "I do not ask for your fear, doctor," she said. "I ask for your skill." "Find a way," he bowed his head. "If that is your command, I will try." Later that day, the queen visited the cryonic chamber alone. The room was cold, and the only sound came from the humming of the machines. Inside the pod, Ryan's body looked peaceful, his face calm and still. The queen stood beside the glass, studying the lines of his face. He looked so young compared to her kind. Humans aged quickly, and yet in his short life he had shown more strength than most. She spoke softly, almost to herself. "You were loyal to the end, perhaps too loyal. But I will not let that loyalty fade in the dark." The days turned into weeks. The scientists worked under strict secrecy. Only a handful of trusted guards were allowed near the lab. The queen had ordered that no record of the project be kept in the royal archives. The galaxy must not know that the Valari ruler was trying to bring a human back from death. Dr. Oren and his team studied every part of Ryan's structure. They discovered that his cells had been damaged by plasma burns, but his brain pattern remained preserved thanks to the cryonic field. The queen visited every night to check their progress. Her presence made everyone work faster. One night, Dr. Oren came to her chamber with a faint light in his eyes. "My queen, we may have found a method. We can use the Valari energy matrix to rebuild his damaged organs, but the energy will not be pure. It will change him." The queen leaned forward. "Change him how? His body will not remain fully human. The Valari energy will integrate with his system. He may gain our strength and speed, but he may also lose something of himself." The queen thought for a moment, her expression unreadable. "Then he will become something new. Proceed." Inside the lab, the scientists began the process. The chamber filled with blue light as the energy field surrounded the human body. Machines hummed and wires glowed. The air vibrated with power. The queen stood behind the glass, watching every movement. The machines poured raw life energy into Rian's body, rebuilding what was lost. Hours passed. Alira stood quietly beside her mother. She had begged to be there, unable to rest since that night. When she saw the body begin to move under the light, her heart raced. "Mother, is it working?" The queen did not answer. Her eyes were fixed on the monitors as the energy reached its peak. Then for a brief moment, the light filled the whole room. The machines powered down and silence returned. Inside the pod, the human's chest rose slightly, then fell still. Dr. Oren checked the readings. His voice was tense. "The heart is beating. Brain activity detected. He lives." The queen closed her eyes for a moment, whispering a quiet word of thanks. Alira gasped as the pod opened and the cool mist drifted out. Ryan's body lay still for a few seconds before his eyes opened. They glowed faint blue like the light of the Volari crystals. He breathed sharply, confusion in his gaze. His voice came weak but clear. "Where am I?" The Queen stepped forward. "You are safe. You are among friends." Ryan looked around, recognizing none of the faces. His last memory was fire and pain. He tried to rise, but his strength failed. Dr. Oren helped him sit up. His body trembled, not from fear, but from something new running through him. He could feel the energy in his veins like a soft current. The Queen spoke calmly. "You died protecting my daughter. You have been restored by our science. Rest now, Ryan. You will need time to remember." He looked at her with uncertain eyes. "I was dead." "Yes," she said. "But you live again. Your service is not over." Over the next few days, Ryan remained in recovery under constant care. His body healed faster than any human body should. His strength increased daily and his senses sharpened. When he closed his eyes, he could hear distant sounds, the hum of the palace reactors, the soft movements of guards outside. He began to remember fragments: the garden, the explosion, the princess crying. Each time he remembered, pain crossed his face, but the Queen told him not to fight it. Princess Alira visited often. She spoke to him kindly, thanking him for what he had done. He tried to answer but struggled to find words. His voice sounded different to him, deeper and smoother. The doctors said it was due to the energy integration, but Ryan felt that something inside him had truly changed. One evening, when Alira sat beside his bed, he asked, "Why did she bring me back?" "A soldier's duty ends with death," Alira looked down. "My mother says your duty is not finished. She believes you were meant for more than one life." Ryan stayed silent for a moment. He could not argue, but he also did not understand. He felt both grateful and uneasy. He had been ready for death, yet fate had pulled him back. When the Queen visited him that night, she stood at the edge of the room. "How do you feel?" "Stronger," he replied. "But different," she nodded slowly. "That is to be expected. You are no longer only human. You carry part of our energy now. You will learn to control it." "What am I now?" he asked. "You are what you have always been," she said softly. "A protector." Ryan looked down at his hands. They glowed faintly in the dim light. He clenched them and felt the strength within. He understood then that his life had not been returned for peace. It had been returned for purpose. And though he did not yet know what that purpose was, the Queen already saw it clearly. In her eyes, Ryan was no longer just a soldier. He was the beginning of something greater, a symbol of unity between two races and a living weapon for the defense of her throne. Far above the palace, the stars shone quietly, unaware that a new chapter of history had just begun on Velan Prime. The palace of Velan Prime stood bright again under the twin suns, but a quiet tension filled its walls. Rumors whispered through every corridor. The guards spoke in low voices. The servants avoided the lower chambers, and even the council members stayed silent during meetings. Everyone knew the Queen had done something forbidden. Everyone knew that the human soldier who had died in the attack now walked again. Ryan had been awake for nearly a month. His body healed completely, though it no longer felt the same. When he looked into the mirror, he saw faint blue lines running under his skin, glowing softly like threads of light. His eyes reflected the same Volari glow. His strength had grown far beyond human limits. He could lift heavy metal frames with ease, see through smoke, and move faster than the eye could follow. The Queen called it a miracle of science, but the palace whispered another name: the human weapon. He lived in a guarded wing near the royal training grounds. The Queen ordered that he be trained again, not as a normal soldier, but as something more. Volari instructors tested his reflexes, his control, and his endurance. Each time they increased the energy field pressure, Ryan adapted quickly. The Queen often watched his sessions from above, her face unreadable. She was proud of what she had created, but she also saw the danger. The energy that made him powerful could also destroy him if left unchecked. Princess Alira visited him every few days. She brought him books about Volari history and told him stories of the stars. Ryan listened quietly, speaking only when asked. He respected her kindness but felt uneasy. He did not know if he was still the man who once guarded her. Every time he looked at her, he remembered the moment he died protecting her. The memory burned inside him, clear as light. He could still feel the fire, the explosion, and her crying voice. Sometimes in the middle of the night he woke suddenly, unsure if he was alive or dreaming. Dr. Oren kept a close watch on him. The scientist scanned Rian's body each day, studying how the energy interacted with his human cells. The readings amazed him. The Valari energy had not only healed him but also bonded with his nervous system, creating a bridge between biology and pure light. Yet there were risks. When Ryan's emotions ran high, the energy inside him became unstable. His eyes glowed brighter, and the air around him pulsed with power. One evening, while Ryan was training, a Valari guard named Kareth approached him. Kareth was proud and tall, wearing the royal insignia on his armor. He had never liked the idea of a human inside the palace, much less one enhanced by Valari energy. He stood before Ryan, his tone sharp. "You should not be here," Kareth said. "You died once. The Queen made a mistake bringing you back." Ryan paused, lowering his training staff. "I follow her command." Kareth stepped closer. "You are not one of us. You wear our energy like armor, but you are still human. You will never belong." Rian's hands tightened on the staff, but he did not raise it. "Then I will serve from the shadows. Belonging is not required." Kareth laughed coldly. "You speak as if loyalty makes you pure, but loyalty can be used like a chain. Do you not see? You are her weapon, nothing more." Before Ryan could answer, Kareth struck first. Their weapons clashed, sending a wave of energy across the floor. The guards nearby shouted, but the Queen, who had been watching from the balcony, raised her hand for silence. She wanted to see what her creation could do. Rian moved with unnatural speed. Each strike from Kareth was blocked easily. The human's eyes glowed bright blue as he countered, pushing Kareth back step by step. The Valari soldier fell, his weapon clattering to the floor. Ryan stopped, breathing steadily. He could have finished the fight, but he turned away instead. "I am not your enemy," he said. The Queen's voice echoed through the hall. "Enough." Kareth stood and bowed deeply, shame on his face. The Queen looked down at Ryan. "You showed control. That is good. Never forget that power without restraint destroys both the enemy and the wielder." Ryan bowed his head. "Yes, my Queen." After the others left, Alira approached him quietly. "He was wrong to challenge you," she said. "He spoke truth," Ryan replied. "I am not one of you. I am something in between." She looked at him with gentle eyes. "You are more than that. You are proof that life can rise beyond death. That means something." Her words stayed in his mind long after she left. Over the next weeks, Ryan's skills continued to grow. He learned to focus the energy within him, using it to strengthen his strikes or to heal small wounds. The Queen assigned him new duties, to oversee the protection of the palace and train the next generation of guards. Many of them feared him at first, but his calm nature earned their respect. He taught them not just fighting, but discipline, patience, and loyalty. The Queen began to see him as more than an experiment. He had become the heart of her guard, but beyond the walls, trouble was spreading again. The surviving raiders from the last attack had joined with rebellious Valari nobles who despised human influence. They believed the Queen had betrayed their traditions by giving Valari power to an outsider. They called themselves the Pure Circle, and their goal was to overthrow her rule. Secret messages reached the palace. The council begged the Queen to end her connection with the human before it became a reason for rebellion. Lord Theron stood before her throne one morning, his tone filled with warning. "My Queen, the nobles whisper that you have lost your way. They say the human's revival is a curse. If you do not remove him, they will rise against you." The Queen's voice was calm but cold. "Let them rise. They will learn what loyalty means." Lord Theron hesitated. "They plan to strike soon." She turned her gaze toward the window where the sunlight touched the towers. "Then we will be ready, and he will lead the defense." That night the Queen summoned Rian to her chamber. The room was dim, lit by soft blue crystals. She looked at him for a long time before speaking. "You know why I brought you back?" Ryan nodded. "To protect the princess." "That was only the beginning," she said. "You were restored not only to guard my daughter, but to remind our people that courage knows no bloodline. Yet they refuse to see it. They plan to destroy what we have built." Ryan stood straight. "Then I will stand against them." Her voice softened. "Do you understand the cost? They will not see you as a hero. To them, you are an abomination. You will fight not just for me, but for those who hate you." "I fought once for life," he said. "Now I fight for meaning." The Queen's eyes glowed faintly. "You are more Valari than they will ever be." She placed her hand on his shoulder. the first time she had ever shown such a gesture. When the time comes, do not hesitate. Soon after, the palace prepared for war. The Pure Circle launched attacks across nearby colonies, spreading chaos to draw the Queen's forces away. Inside the palace, Alira tried to keep calm, though fear filled her heart. She had seen war before, but this one felt different. The rebels were not strangers. They were their own people. One evening, while Ryan patrolled the halls, Alira found him near the observation deck. The stars glimmered across the sky. "Do you ever wish you had not been brought back?" she asked quietly. Ryan looked out toward the stars. "Sometimes. Death was peaceful, but purpose brought me here. It would dishonor the life I was given if I wished it away." "You speak like a philosopher," she said with a small smile. He turned to her. "I speak like a soldier who remembers what it means to die." She felt a shiver at his words, not of fear but of awe. The energy from his body lit the air faintly around them. For a brief moment she saw not a weapon or a human, but a spirit that carried two worlds within one heart. Before they could speak further, alarms blared across the palace. The walls trembled. The Pure Circle had struck sooner than expected. Explosions flashed outside the city dome. Ships descended through the atmosphere and enemy troops stormed the outer defenses. The Queen's voice rang through the command channel. "To all units, defend the capital. No retreat." Ryan grabbed his rifle and turned to the princess. "Go to the secure vaults. Do not wait for me." "I will not hide again," she said firmly. "You must," he replied. "I was brought back to protect you. Let me fulfill that duty." Their eyes met for a moment before she nodded and ran toward the lower gates. Ryan joined the front line as the enemy ships landed in the gardens once more. Fire lit the night and the sound of battle filled the air. The war for Velen Prime had begun again. Ryan moved through the smoke like a storm of light. Plasma fire struck his armor, but the energy within him absorbed it. His strikes were faster than ever, his strength beyond measure. To his allies he was a symbol of hope. To his enemies he was terror itself. Yet even as he fought, a thought echoed in his mind. He was alive because of the Queen's will. But was this truly life or a second death lived in endless battle? The answer would come soon, for the rebellion had a weapon of its own, one designed to destroy him and everything the Queen had created. The city of Vareth was burning. Fires from the enemy attack reflected off the crystal towers, painting the streets in shades of orange and red. The Pure Circle had arrived in full force, their ships cutting through the atmosphere like streaks of lightning. The palace alarms rang out across the city as soldiers scrambled to defend the royal family. Princess Alira ran through the corridors, her silver robe flowing behind her. The lower vaults had been prepared for emergencies, but she knew they were not safe. The enemy had infiltrated parts of the palace that were thought impenetrable. She had trained under Ryan's guidance and could handle herself, but even her skills were no match for the chaos outside. "Stay here," Ryan ordered, appearing beside her with his rifle ready. His eyes glowed faintly blue, and the energy running through his body seemed to pulse with the rhythm of battle. "I will cover you." Alira shook her head. "I cannot just hide. I have to help. You will help when the palace is safe. My task is to fight," he said firmly. His voice carried authority, the kind only someone who had faced death and returned could wield. Before she could protest further, a section of the corridor collapsed. Debris fell around them as Ryan threw himself over her, using his enhanced strength to shield her from the heavy stones. Dust filled the air and the sound of collapsing metal echoed through the vaults. When it was safe, he stood lifting the rubble with ease and tossing it aside. "This is only the beginning," he said. "The rebels have planned carefully. They do not want to take the palace. They want to destroy what we stand for." Alira looked at him with concern. "They will never break us. Not while you are here." Ryan's expression softened. "I am not invincible. I will protect, but I cannot fight fate itself." The Queen watched from the control chamber above. Her eyes scanned the holographic displays showing enemy positions. The Pure Circle's forces were strong and coordinated. They were Valari, and they understood the weaknesses of the palace defenses. But Ryan was stronger, faster, and more determined than any human or Valari could have imagined. She spoke into the communicator. "Ryan, the northern gate is under heavy fire. You must go now," he nodded. "Understood, my queen." Ryan sprinted through the corridors, his feet moving faster than anyone else could keep up. When he reached the northern gate, he saw a group of enemy soldiers attempting to break through the energy shield. With a burst of energy from his body, He leapt into their ranks, deflecting blasts of plasma and striking with his enhanced strength. The attackers fell before him like wheat before a scythe. Still, the enemy was relentless. They brought a new weapon, a pulse cannon designed to disrupt the Valari energy within him. When it fired, a wave of energy struck Ryan, sending his body into pain. The blue light in his eyes flickered and he staggered. His body screamed with resistance, the alien energy and human tissue struggling to coexist under the assault. Alira, watching from a safe distance, felt fear grip her heart. She ran toward him, ignoring the guards who tried to stop her. "Ryan!" she shouted. He looked at her, his breath heavy. "Go back, this is my fight." "No," she cried. "We fight together." Before he could answer, the pulse cannon fired again. Ryan fell to one knee, his body glowing bright with unstable energy. Sparks of light shot from his limbs as he struggled to maintain control. He could feel the human part of him resisting, afraid to die again while the Valari energy pushed him forward. Pain and determination fought inside him like fire and ice. He rose slowly, forcing himself to stand. His glowing eyes scanned the enemy, calculating their next move. Then, with a roar that echoed across the battlefield, he surged forward. His strength and speed returned, multiplied by his will. The pulse cannon's energy could not stop him. He struck the attackers with precision, knocking them aside, destroying their weapons and cutting a path through their forces. Each step he took inspired the defenders around him. Valari and human soldiers alike followed his lead, their courage renewed by the sight of the human who had returned from death. Still, the pulse cannon kept firing, and Ryan felt the energy inside him faltering. The human part of him screamed with fear and pain, but he pushed onward. He could not fail. He remembered the faces of those he had sworn to protect. The princess, the queen, the soldiers who trusted him. Their lives depended on his victory. Alira reached him at last, placing her hand on his shoulder. "You do not have to fight alone," she said softly. Ryan shook his head. "This is my burden. I was brought back for this. I will not let them break us." Together they moved through the battlefield. The combination of human courage and Valari energy made Ryan unstoppable. His attacks were precise and deadly, yet controlled. He used his strength to protect his allies as much as to defeat his enemies. Alira supported him, using her knowledge of the palace and the energy fields to guide him and warn of dangers ahead. The enemy began to falter. Their plans had relied on Ryan's absence or weakness. Now that he stood before them, alive and stronger than before, their formation broke. Ships crashed into the ground, soldiers retreated, and the pulse cannon was destroyed by one of Ryan's focused strikes. Still, victory came at a cost. The energy inside him began to surge uncontrollably. His body glowed brighter than the palace lights, the air around him vibrating with power. Ryan felt himself being pulled between life and death once again. He could feel the human part of him resisting, the fear of another death rising like a tide. Alira held his face, her hands steady. "You are stronger than this," she whispered. "We are stronger than this." He looked into her eyes, seeing not just fear but trust and belief. That belief became his anchor. The energy inside him stabilized and he regained control. With renewed strength, he struck the final blow, sending the last of the enemy forces fleeing from the palace. The battlefield fell silent. Smoke rose from the ruins, but the palace still stood. Soldiers cheered, calling Ryan's name. The queen descended from the control chamber, her face full of relief and pride. "You did it," she said softly. "You have saved us all once again." Ryan looked around, breathing heavily. His body felt the exhaustion of battle, but also the strength of survival. "It was not me alone," he said. "Everyone fought together." Alira smiled, brushing a streak of soot from his face. "You led them. Without you, many would have fallen." The queen placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have proven yourself not only human but more than any of us imagined. Yet this victory is not the end. The enemies will return and the rebellion will not rest." Ryan nodded. "Then I will be ready. I will stand again if needed." But deep in the shadows of the palace, even as the battle ended, whispers of fear and jealousy stirred among the nobles. They saw Ryan not as a hero but as a threat, a being neither fully human nor fully Valari. Standing between them and power, some swore to find a way to remove him, believing that only his death could restore their dominance. Ryan did not know of these plots. For now he focused on the people he had saved, the princess he had protected and the queen who had given him life again. Yet even he felt a small unease deep in his heart. He had faced death before, but could he survive when the war was not just physical but political? As the sun rose the next day, the palace gardens slowly began to recover. Soldiers repaired walls and engineers restored the energy shields. The city breathed again, though scars of the battle remained. Ryan walked through the gardens, quiet and thoughtful. Alira joined him, walking beside him without speaking. They had shared the horrors of battle and the relief of survival. Words were unnecessary. Their bond was forged through experience, trust, and loyalty. The Queen watched them from her balcony. Her gaze lingered on Ryan. She had given him back his life, but she could not let him go. The human who had once died to protect her daughter now stood as the living symbol of courage and unity. And she knew deep within that his journey was only beginning. The galaxy beyond Velen Prime would soon hear of his deeds. Some would see him as a hero, others as a threat. But for the people of the palace, the soldiers, and the princess, he was more than a weapon. He was proof that life could rise above death, that loyalty could defy fear, and that a single human could change the fate of a world. And even as the quiet settled over the city, a new storm was forming. The pure circle would return, stronger and more determined. But Ryan had survived death once. He would face whatever came next, for he was no longer only a human soldier. He was a living weapon, a protector, and the light that refused to fade. The war had left scars across Velen Prime. The crystal towers still shimmered, but their surfaces were marked by fire and battle. The streets of Vareth were slowly being rebuilt, and the citizens whispered stories of the human who had returned from death to save the palace. Ryan walked through the city quietly, his body still glowing faintly with the Valari energy that had saved him. He had become more than a soldier. His presence inspired humans and Valari alike. Soldiers trained harder, citizens looked to him with hope, and even the Queen relied on his counsel for defense strategies. But Ryan himself felt the weight of everything he had endured. He had faced death twice, fought a rebellion, and held the fate of a planet in his hands. Yet he did not show fear. He had learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Princess Alira walked beside him, her hand brushing lightly against his arm. She had become his closest companion, the one person who understood his struggles and strength. "Do you ever feel tired?" she asked softly. Ryan shook his head. "No, I feel aware. I know I am alive because I have work to do, because people depend on me." She nodded, her silver eyes shining. "You have changed this world, not just with your strength, but with your heart." The Queen Seren watched them from her balcony. She had given Ryan life a second time, and she had no intention of letting him go. To her, he was more than a soldier. He was a symbol of unity between humans and Valari, proof that courage and loyalty could cross the boundaries of species. She often thought of him at night, wondering if one day he would return to the simple life of a human soldier. But deep down she knew that was impossible. He had become something greater than himself. Despite the calm that seemed to settle over the city, threats still lingered. The Pure Circle, humiliated and defeated, had retreated to secret bases beyond the outer moons. They had not forgotten their loss, and they planned to strike again when the moment was right. The Queen had prepared her defenses, but she knew that one battle would never be the end. Ryan's power made him both a protector and a target. One morning, scouts reported movement near the northern frontier. A fleet of ships approached, faster and more organized than before. Ryan stood on the palace balcony, observing the distant silhouettes. His body thrummed with energy, ready for action. "We must prepare," he said to the Queen and Princess Alira. "This is not a minor attack." "They have learned from their defeat," the Queen nodded. "You will lead the defense." Ryan turned to her, his blue glowing eyes steady. "I will, whatever it takes." As the fleet drew closer, the city prepared for battle. Soldiers lined the walls and energy shields pulsed with renewed power. Ryan moved among them, offering guidance and reassurance. His presence alone steadied their nerves. Humans and Valari fought side by side, their trust in him unshakable. The enemy arrived, their ships cutting through the sky with deadly precision. They fired energy beams that struck the palace walls, shaking the towers and sending sparks of crystal flying. Ryan moved like a storm, intercepting attacks with his enhanced speed and strength. He tore through enemy ships with carefully calculated strikes, each move precise, each action purposeful. The battle raged for hours. The Pure Circle fought with skill, using tactics designed to exploit Ryan's hybrid nature. They hoped to disrupt the energy within him, to force the human side to fail, but Rian had learned to control the power that now flowed through his veins. He faced each challenge calmly, adapting to every attack. During the fight, he noticed a group of enemy soldiers trying to infiltrate the palace through the lower corridors. Without hesitation, he leapt through the chaos, moving faster than any eye could follow. He struck with controlled power, neutralizing the threat before the soldiers could reach the Queen or Princess Alira. His strength and determination became the shield of the palace, keeping those he loved safe. As the battle continued, Rian's body began to glow brighter, a sign that the Valari energy and his human determination had reached perfect harmony. He moved like a force of nature, yet he did not lose control. Each strike protected the soldiers around him. Each movement ensured the survival of the palace. Finally, the enemy fleet began to retreat. Their formations were broken, their morale shattered. The Pure Circle had underestimated the human who had returned from death. Soldiers cheered, their voices echoing across the city. The citizens looked on in awe, knowing they had witnessed something extraordinary. Rian stood atop the palace wall, breathing heavily but steady. He looked at the Queen, who watched from her chamber. She smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and pride. She knew he had done more than fight. He had reminded the Valari that courage and loyalty were more important than tradition and fear. Princess Alira joined him, her eyes filled with admiration. "You are not just a soldier," she said softly. "You are a legend." Rian shook his head. "I am only a human who was given a second chance. It is what I do with it that matters." The Queen descended to the balcony, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have done more than any of us could imagine. You saved my daughter, protected my people, and defended this city. You are not a weapon. You are the living proof that life can rise beyond death." Rian looked down at his hands, glowing faintly with Valari energy. He had felt fear, pain, and doubt. Yet he had survived, not by avoiding danger, but by facing it with loyalty and courage. He had given everything to protect others, and in return he had been given life a second time. The days following the battle were quiet, but busy. The palace and city rebuilt themselves, and Rian continued to serve as the protector of the royal family. Citizens told stories of the human who had returned from death, and soldiers trained harder under his guidance. Even Valari nobles who had doubted him began to respect his courage and strength. But the Queen knew the truth. Rian was more than a hero. He was a symbol, a bridge between species, and a living reminder that loyalty and courage could surpass fear, prejudice, and death itself. She often visited him in the training grounds, watching as he moved with strength and precision, yet always with a quiet respect for life. One evening, as the sun set over the city, the Queen and Princess Alira visited Rian in the gardens. He walked among the glowing plants, his faint blue light reflecting off the crystal petals. The city was calm, but the future remained uncertain. The Queen spoke softly. "You have given us everything, Rian, and yet I cannot let you go. You are more than a protector. You are part of this world now." Rian looked at her, his expression steady. "I understand, my Queen. I will remain, not because I must, but because it is my choice." Princess Alira stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. "We owe you more than life. We owe you our trust and our gratitude. You are not just a soldier. You are the hope of Velan Prime." Rian nodded, feeling the weight of his journey. He had faced death twice, fought an entire rebellion, and carried the lives of many on his shoulders. Yet he remained humble, aware that his strength was not just his own. It was the belief, loyalty, and courage of everyone he had fought for. The Queen smiled, a rare warmth in her eyes. "Then you will stay with us, Rian. You will remain our living legend, and one day the galaxy will know your name." Rian looked at the twin suns as they dipped below the horizon. He felt the energy within him pulse gently, a reminder of both his human heart and the Valari power that now lived in him. He had been given life twice, fought for the future of a world, and discovered what it meant to be truly loyal and courageous. The stars above Velan Prime shimmered quietly, as if acknowledging his deeds. Somewhere beyond the city, the remnants of the Pure Circle regrouped, but their plans would fail. They could never destroy what Rian had become. He was not only a soldier or a weapon. He was proof that courage could rise from death, that loyalty could transcend fear, and that one human could change the destiny of a world. And deep in a hidden chamber beneath the palace, The Queen ensured the secret of his resurrection remained safe. Machines hummed quietly, monitors recorded his vital signs, and the energy that gave him life flowed steadily. He had been brought back for a purpose, and that purpose had not yet ended. For now Valen Prime had its protector. The Queen had her human who would not let go, and the galaxy had a living legend. Ryan had faced death, war, and doubt. He had survived, not by escaping danger but by embracing it with courage and loyalty. The city slept peacefully that night, unaware of the legacy that walked among them. The human who had given his life to protect a princess now lived as a symbol, a legend, and a reminder that even the smallest life could shine brightest when guided by loyalty and courage. And the Queen, watching over him, knew that he would remain with them, as protector, hero, and friend for all the days that followed.